The Zorgonian dreadnought, the indomitable fury, hung in the inky blackness beyond the orbit of Pluto. A silent predator observing its unsuspecting prey. From the bridge, Commander Vrook, a veteran of countless galactic campaigns, surveyed the pale blue marble that was Earth. His 4 eyes narrowed, a low rumble emanating from his vocal sac, a sound that, on his homeworld, signified amusement mixed with disdain. Magnify visual sensors on the target planet, he commanded, his voice a rasping baritone that echoed through the bridge. A holographic projection shimmered into existence, displaying a rotating image of Earth. Vrook studied it intently, his gaze sweeping across the continents, the oceans, the swirling patterns of clouds. The initial scans had already confirmed what his strategists had predicted. A complete and utter lack of meaningful orbital defenses. A few antiquated satellites, relics of a bygone era of space exploration, drifted aimlessly, posing no threat whatsoever. Report on planetary defense capabilities, Vrook ordered. A junior officer, nervously adjusting his cranial implants, responded, Commander, preliminary analysis indicates minimal atmospheric shielding. Surface-to-orbit weaponry is virtually non-existent. Their technology, it's almost laughable. Combustion engines, primitive radio communication. They haven't even achieved consistent fusion power. Another officer chimed in. Their most advanced weapon appears to be some sort of nuclear device. Crude and inefficient, capable of localized destruction, but ultimately insignificant against a fleet of our caliber. Vrook allowed himself a grim smile. Nuclear devices, how quaint, a species clinging to the brink of self-annihilation, barely able to harness the power of their own sun. They are like children playing with fire, unaware of the inferno they could unleash. He gestured dismissively at the holographic projection. And their space program? A few clumsy probes sent to the outer reaches of their solar system. They haven't even mastered interstellar travel. They haven't even dreamed of the wonders and horrors that lie beyond their little corner of the galaxy. The indomitable fury was the vanguard of a vast Zorgonian armada, a force of warships and troop transports that stretched across light years. They had conquered countless worlds, subjugated entire civilizations, and plundered resources beyond measure. Earth, with its apparent lack of defenses and its abundance of untapped resources, seemed like the easiest target they had ever encountered. This is almost insulting, Vrook muttered. We have prepared for a protracted campaign, for a fierce resistance. But this is like taking candy from a hatchling. He turned to his second-in-command, a hulking Zorgonian warrior named Grok. Grok, prepare a scouting party. I want a detailed assessment of the planet's resources, its population centers, and any potential pockets of resistance. But keep the party small. I don't want to waste resources on a planet that will fall with a whisper. Grok, his mandibles clicking in anticipation, nodded grimly. As you command, Commander. A small strike team should be more than sufficient to subdue these primitives. Vrook returned his gaze to the holographic projection of Earth. He couldn't shake a nagging feeling, a sense of unease that lingered beneath the surface of his confidence. It was too easy. It was almost suspicious. Increase sensor sensitivity, he ordered. I want a thorough scan of the planet's surface. Look for anything unusual, anything that might indicate a hidden threat. The officers exchanged glances, but they obeyed without question. The Zorgonian fleet was renowned for its meticulousness, its unwavering attention to detail. They left nothing to chance. But as the sensors probed deeper, as the data streams flooded the bridge, Vrook's unease only grew. There was something about this planet, something intangible, that defied easy explanation. It was as if Earth was deliberately concealing something, hiding its true nature behind a veil of weakness and vulnerability. He just couldn't put his finger on what it was. Yet, despite the nagging feeling that something was amiss, Commander Vrook couldn't ignore the overwhelming evidence of Earth's weakness. He authorized the deployment of the initial scouting party, a squad of 10 Zorgonian warriors led by Grok himself. Their mission: to secure a landing zone, assess the planet's primary resources, and gauge the temperament of the dominant species, humans. The scout ship, a sleek, obsidian-colored vessel, called the Harbinger, pierced Earth's atmosphere with barely a ripple. cloaked from visual and radar detection. It descended rapidly towards a sparsely populated region of the North American continent, a desolate expanse of desert and scrubland. Grok, strapped into his command chair, watched the approach with a mixture of anticipation and boredom. He had participated in countless planetary invasions, each one following a predictable pattern of initial resistance, followed by swift and brutal subjugation. Landing zone secured, the pilot announced, his voice robotic and devoid of emotion. Atmosphere nominal, no significant resistance detected. The Harbinger touched down on the dusty ground with a soft thud. The boarding ramp hissed open, and Grok, followed by his squad, emerged into the harsh sunlight. The air was thin and dry, and the landscape stretched out before them, an endless vista of red rock and stunted vegetation. Sensors active. Grok barked. Scan for life signs, resource deposits, and any signs of organized resistance. The Zorgonian warriors fanned out, their energy weapons held at the ready. They moved with practiced efficiency, their movements fluid and silent. Within minutes, they had established a secure perimeter around the landing zone. Commander, a comms officer reported, "We've detected several small settlements within a 50-kilometer radius, predominantly human. Low technology levels, no military presence detected." Grok grunted. "As expected, proceed to the nearest settlement. I want to observe these humans in their natural habitat." The scouting party piled into armored transport vehicles and set off across the desert. After several hours of bumpy driving, they reached their destination. A small, isolated town consisting of a handful of dilapidated buildings and a scattering of ramshackle dwellings. The Zorgonians approached cautiously, their weapons trained on the unsuspecting inhabitants. The humans, initially startled by the arrival of the alien invaders, quickly recovered and gathered to observe the newcomers. They were a motley crew, dressed in faded clothing and sporting a variety of hairstyles and tattoos. Some were armed with what appeared to be antiquated firearms, but their demeanor was more curious than hostile. Grok stepped forward, his towering figure casting a long shadow over the crowd. He activated his universal translator and addressed the humans in their own language. "Greetings, inhabitants of Earth. We are representatives of the Zorgonian Empire. We have come to assess your planet for potential resource exploitation." The humans stared at him blankly for a moment. Then one of them, a grizzled old man with a weathered face, stepped forward. "Zorgonian Empire. Huh. Never heard of you. What's resource exploitation mean?" Grok sighed inwardly. These humans were even more primitive than he had anticipated. "It means we will take your resources and use them for our own purposes in exchange. We will offer you protection." The old man chuckled. "Protection? From what? We ain't got nothing worth protecting. Just a bunch of dirt and a whole lot of nothing." Grok's patience was wearing thin. "Do not play coy with me, human. That we know your planet is rich in valuable minerals and energy sources. Cooperate with us, and we will ensure your survival. Resist us, and you will be eliminated." The old man spat on the ground. "Eliminated? Huh. You in what army? Looks to me like you're just a bunch of fancy-dressed tourists." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. The humans, despite being outgunned and outmatched, seemed strangely unafraid. They stood their ground, their eyes fixed on the Zorgonians with a mixture of defiance and amusement. Grok, momentarily taken aback by their lack of fear, hesitated. He had expected resistance, but he hadn't anticipated this. Apathy.it was as if these humans simply didn't care about their own survival, that he decided to test them. "Very well, humans. If you are so indifferent to your fate, then we shall proceed as we see fit. We will begin extracting your resources immediately. Do not interfere." He signaled to his squad, and they began setting up mining equipment near the town's water supply. The humans watched in silence, their faces expressionless. Grok couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something. These humans were not behaving as he expected them to. They were not afraid, they were not aggressive, they were simply watching, and that, more than anything, made him uneasy. The lack of resistance only amplified the unsettling feeling Vrook had expressed earlier. This planet was far from the easy target it appeared to be. The silence of the humans, their unnerving indifference to the Zorgonians' presence, was more unsettling than any armed resistance could have been. Grok, still unnerved, ordered his troops to establish a temporary base of operations within the town, utilizing one of the larger, relatively intact buildings as their headquarters. He hoped that a more thorough examination of human culture might reveal the source of their peculiar behavior. The building they chose was once a library. Dust coated the shelves and the air hung thick with the scent of aging paper. Grok initially dismissed the contents as irrelevant, primitive record-keeping devices of little practical value. But one of his subordinates, a young Zorgonian named Rix, expressed an unusual curiosity. "Commander," Rix said, his voice hesitant, "may I examine these books? I am intrigued by their construction." Grok, surprised by the request, shrugged. "Do as you wish, Rix, but do not waste too much time on such trivial pursuits. We have more important matters to attend to." Rix, relieved, began to carefully examine the books, his multifaceted eyes scanning the strange symbols on the pages. He selected a volume at random and activated his translator, attempting to decipher the human language. The book turned out to be a collection of poetry. Rix, who had never encountered anything resembling poetry in Zorgonian society, was initially baffled. The verses were filled with abstract concepts, emotional expressions, and metaphors that were completely foreign to his logical, pragmatic mind. He read aloud, his translator struggling to convey the nuances of the human language. "I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er valleys and hills." Another Zorgonian warrior, overhearing the recitation, scoffed. "What nonsense is this, Rix? Lonely as a cloud? Clouds are inanimate objects. They cannot experience loneliness." Rix ignored him, his attention captivated by the strange beauty of the words. He continued reading, his voice growing softer, more expressive. As he delved deeper into the poem, he began to experience a flicker of something he had never felt before, a sense of empathy. He began to understand the human capacity for sadness, for longing, for connection with the natural world. He moved on to another book. A novel. It told a story of love, loss, and redemption, filled with complex characters and moral dilemmas. Rix found himself drawn into the narrative, identifying with the struggles and triumphs of the human protagonists. He laughed, he cried, he felt a range of emotions that were entirely new to him. News of Rix's strange behavior spread quickly through the Zorgonian ranks. Some dismissed it as a temporary aberration, a side effect of prolonged exposure to the alien atmosphere. Others saw it as a sign of weakness, a betrayal of Zorgonian ideals. Grok, initially skeptical, decided to investigate. For himself. He entered the library and observed Rix, who was now surrounded by a pile of books, his eyes glazed over with emotion. "Rix," Grok said sternly, "what is the meaning of this? You are neglecting your duties and indulging in frivolous pastimes." Rix looked up, his face flushed. "Commander," he said, his voice trembling slightly, I have discovered something extraordinary. These books, they contain the essence of humanity. They reveal their hopes, their fears, their dreams. They are beautiful." Grok snorted. "Beautiful? They are nothing but ink and paper. They are tools of propaganda designed to manipulate and control the masses." He picked up a book at random, a collection of musical scores. He activated his translator and attempted to decipher the strange symbols. The music, when translated into audible frequencies, was surprisingly complex and melodic. Grok, who had always considered music to be a purely functional element of Zorgonian society used to stimulate aggression and obedience, was stunned by its emotional depth. He felt a strange stirring within him, a longing for something he couldn't quite define. He began to understand why the humans were so apathetic, why they didn't seem to care about their own survival. They had something that the Zorgonians lacked, a deep appreciation for beauty, for art, for the simple pleasures of life. The realization hit him like a physical blow. The humans were not defenseless. They possessed a weapon far more powerful than any nuclear device. Their culture, their art, their music, their literature were capable of penetrating the Zorgonian armor, of awakening emotions that had long been dormant. This was not going to be the easy conquest he had anticipated. This was something far more dangerous, something that threatened the very foundations of Zorgonian society. The humans weren't resisting with weapons, but with culture. And it was proving surprisingly effective. Back on the indomitable Fury, Commander Vrook was growing increasingly impatient. Grok's reports were vague and unsettling, filled with talk of emotional resistance and cultural complexities. Vrook, a pragmatist at heart, dismissed such notions as sentimental drivel. He needed concrete data, quantifiable metrics, something he could use to assess the true threat level of Earth. Report from the AI analysis team, he barked, his voice echoing through the bridge. A sterile, synthesized voice responded, Commander, preliminary data analysis of Earth's digital network is complete. And? Vrook pressed. What have you found? The initial assessment of primitive technology was inaccurate, the AI stated. While Earth's technological capabilities are relatively underdeveloped compared to Zergonian standards, their systems are far more intricate and interconnected than previously anticipated. The AI projected a complex network diagram onto the holographic display. It showed a web of interconnected nodes representing various aspects of human society, financial institutions, trade routes, communication networks, transportation systems. The sheer scale and complexity of the network were staggering. Explain, Vrook commanded. Earth operates on a globalized economic system, the AI explained. Resources and goods are traded across vast distances, creating a complex web of interdependence. Disrupting one part of the system could have cascading effects on the entire planet. So, we have disrupted economic systems before, Vrook scoffed. It is a simple matter of controlling key resources and suppressing dissent. This system is different, Commander, the AI countered. It is not centrally controlled. It is a decentralized, self-regulating network. Attempting to control it would be like trying to grasp water. The more you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. The AI shifted the display to show a representation of Earth's social structures. It revealed a complex hierarchy of nations, cultures, religions, and political ideologies. The AI highlighted the numerous conflicts and rivalries that existed between these groups. Earth is a deeply divided planet, the AI stated. They are constantly at war with themselves. They have a long history of self-inflicted violence and destruction. Vrook frowned. This is hardly surprising. Most primitive civilizations are prone to internal conflict. It is a sign of weakness, not strength. However, the AI continued, their history of conflict has also made them incredibly resilient. They have developed sophisticated strategies for survival, adaptation, and even recovery from devastating events. The AI displayed a series of historical simulations showing how Earth had recovered from wars, famines, and natural disasters. The simulations demonstrated that humanity had a remarkable capacity for bouncing back from adversity. They are like a hydra, the AI concluded. Cut off one head and two more will grow in its place. Destroy one city and they will rebuild it stronger than before. Vrook was starting to feel a sense of unease. The AI's analysis painted a far more nuanced picture of Earth than he had initially anticipated. The planet was not simply a defenseless target ripe for conquest. It was a complex, interconnected system with a remarkable capacity for resilience and self-destruction. What about their military capabilities? Vrook asked. Are they truly as weak as our initial scans suggested? Their military technology is relatively primitive, the AI conceded. However, they possess a vast arsenal of nuclear weapons. While these weapons are not capable of destroying a Zorgonian fleet, they could inflict catastrophic damage on Earth itself. The AI projected a simulation of a global nuclear war. The simulation showed how the exchange of nuclear weapons could trigger a chain reaction of environmental disasters, leading to the collapse of human civilization. They are willing to destroy themselves to prevent us from conquering them, Vrook realized. They are willing to sacrifice everything to maintain their freedom. The AI's analysis had revealed a crucial truth. Earth was not defenseless, but it was defended by something far more potent than weapons or technology. It was defended by the will of its people, by their capacity for resilience, and by their willingness to sacrifice everything for their freedom. This was a far more formidable opponent than Vrook had ever imagined, and he knew with growing certainty that conquering Earth would come at a cost far higher than he was willing to pay. The primitive surface hit a complex and dangerous reality. The AI's report, coupled with Grok's increasingly bizarre dispatches from the surface, prompted Vrook to convene an emergency meeting of his senior staff. The holographic conference room aboard the indomitable Fury flickered to life, displaying the faces of his top strategists, scientists, and military advisors. The situation on Earth is problematic, Vrook began, his voice grim. Our initial assessment of the planet as an easy target was clearly flawed. We are dealing with a species that is far more complex and unpredictable than we anticipated. He summarized the AI's findings, emphasizing Earth's interconnected systems, its history of resilience, and its willingness to engage in self-destructive behavior. He also relayed Grok's reports of the unsettling effects of human culture on his scouting party. Dr. Lyra, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, spoke up. Commander, I have been reviewing the data on human psychology and behavior. I believe I have identified a potential explanation for their unusual characteristics. Enlighten us, Doctor, Vrook said, his 4 eyes fixed on her image. I propose that humanity possesses what I am terming a mimetic hazard, Lyra explained. Their capacity for irrationality, self-destruction, and artistic expression is not merely a byproduct of their primitive development. It is an active force capable of corrupting even advanced civilizations. Mimetic hazard? Vrook repeated, his brow furrowed. Explain yourself. Memes, Commander, are units of cultural information that are transmitted from one mind to another, Lyra said. They can be ideas, beliefs, values, or even emotions. Under normal circumstances, memes are relatively harmless, but in the case of humanity, their memes have become weaponized. She displayed a series of diagrams illustrating the spread of human memes through their communication networks. The diagrams showed how ideas could spread rapidly and uncontrollably, influencing behavior and shaping beliefs. Humanity's memes are particularly potent because they are often illogical, emotional, and even contradictory, Lyra continued. They appeal to our subconscious desires and fears, bypassing our rational defenses. They can infect our minds, distort our perceptions, and ultimately lead us to self-destructive behavior. Are you suggesting that human culture is a virus? Grok interjected, his voice skeptical. His image flickered on screen, patched through from his temporary base on Earth. In a sense, yes, Lyra replied. Human culture is a complex ecosystem of memes, some beneficial, others harmful, but the harmful memes are often the most contagious, the most difficult to resist. She cited examples of human history, wars, genocides, religious extremism, and other acts of senseless violence. She argued that these events were not simply the result of rational calculations or strategic decisions. They were the product of mimetic infection, of ideas that had taken root in the human mind and driven them to madness. But how can this mimetic hazard affect us? Vrook asked. We are Zergonians. We are logical, rational beings. We are immune to such primitive influences. Lyra shook her head. No one is immune, Commander. Memes can bypass our conscious defenses and appeal to our subconscious desires, and the more we interact with human culture, the more vulnerable we become. She pointed to Grok's reports as evidence. The scouting party, initially dismissive of human culture, was now exhibiting signs of emotional instability and irrational behavior. They were being infected by human memes. The longer we remain on Earth, the greater the risk of mimetic contamination, Lyra warned. We must withdraw immediately before it is too late. Vrook considered her words carefully. He had always prided himself on his rationality, his ability to make decisions based on logic and evidence, but he couldn't ignore the growing evidence that Earth was far more dangerous than it appeared. The idea of a mimetic hazard seemed far-fetched, but he couldn't dismiss it out of hand. We need more information, Vrook said. We need to understand how this mimetic hazard works, how it spreads, and how we can protect ourselves from it. He paused, a grim expression on his face. But we must proceed with extreme caution. We cannot afford to underestimate the danger that Earth poses. Lyra's mimetic hazard theory sent a ripple of unease through the Zorgonian command structure. The idea that a civilization could be undone not by weapons or technology but by ideas was deeply unsettling. Vrook, ever the pragmatist, demanded concrete examples. Doctor, he said, are there any documented cases of civilizations succumbing to this mimetic hazard? Lyra hesitated for a moment, then nodded grimly. There is one, a cautionary tale that is rarely discussed in Zorgonian academies, the fate of the Greebly. The holographic conference room dimmed, and the images of Vrook's staff were replaced by a swirling vortex of colors and shapes. The AI began to reconstruct a historical simulation based on fragmented records and recovered artifacts. The Greebly were a hyper-advanced race, the AI narrated, its voice somber. They possessed technology far surpassing our own. They had mastered interstellar travel, manipulated the fabric of space-time, and even dabbled in artificial dimensions. The simulation showed images of the Greebly, beings of pure energy, shimmering with iridescent light. They were a species of cold, calculating intellect, devoid of emotion or empathy. The Greebly believed that logic and reason were the only paths to enlightenment. The AI continued. They had purged all emotions from their society, believing them to be a source of weakness and irrationality. Driven by a relentless pursuit of knowledge and efficiency, the Greebly embarked on a campaign of galactic expansion. They conquered countless worlds, assimilating their resources and enslaving their populations. One of these worlds was Xylos. The AI said, the simulation shifting to depict a lush, vibrant planet teeming with life. Xylos was inhabited by a primitive species known as the Xylosians. They were a simple, agrarian people, with a rich culture of art, music, and storytelling. The Xylosians were no match for the technologically superior Greebly. They were quickly subdued, their cities destroyed, their resources plundered. The Greebly initially dismissed Xylosian culture as irrelevant. The AI narrated. They saw it as a primitive superstition, a hindrance to progress. But they soon discovered that the Xylosian culture possessed a hidden power. As the Greebly began to integrate into Xylosian society, they were exposed to their art, their music, their stories. The Xylosian culture, with its emphasis on emotion, imagination, and empathy, began to have a strange effect on the Greebly. Some Greebly began to experience emotions, the AI said, its voice tinged with a hint of disbelief. They felt joy, sadness, anger, and even love. These emotions were foreign to them, but they were also intoxicating. The Greebly who had been exposed to Xylosian culture began to question their own values, their own beliefs. They started to see the world in a new light, a light filled with beauty, passion, and meaning. The Greebly government, alarmed by this development, attempted to suppress Xylosian culture. The AI continued. They banned their art, their music, their stories. They tried to reindoctrinate their citizens with Greebly logic and reason. But it was too late. The mimetic infection had already taken hold. The Greebly society began to fracture, divided between those who embraced the Xylosian culture and those who clung to their old ways. The conflict escalated into a civil war. The AI said, the simulation depicting a chaotic battle between Greebly factions. The war was brutal and destructive. The Greebly used their advanced technology against themselves, tearing their society apart. In the end, neither side prevailed. The Greebly civilization collapsed, destroyed by its own internal contradictions. The Xylosians, freed from Greebly rule, rebuilt their society, but they were forever scarred by the experience. The holographic conference room returned to normal, the images of Vrook's staff reappearing. A heavy silence hung in the air. The fate of the Greebly serves as a stark warning, Lyra said, her voice grave. Even the most advanced civilizations are vulnerable to the power of memes. We must not repeat their mistake. Vrook nodded slowly. The story of the Greebly was a chilling reminder of the dangers of cultural contamination. He realized that conquering Earth was not just a military challenge, but also a psychological one. They weren't just fighting a species, but an idea, and ideas, as the Greebly had learned, could be far more dangerous than any weapon. The primitive culture was not a sign of weakness, but a potential weapon of mass disruption. The tale of the Greebly, coupled with the unsettling reports from Grok's scouting party, had a profound impact on the Zergonian fleet. Doubts began to fester, cracks appeared in the once unwavering loyalty to the Empire. The idea that conquering Earth might not be worth the cost, or worse, might actually be dangerous, took root in the minds of many Zergonian officers and crew members. On the indomitable fury, those doubts manifested as a growing undercurrent of dissent. Junior officers, once eager for glory and conquest, began to question the ethics of the invasion. They whispered amongst themselves, sharing stories of Rix's transformation in the human library, of Grok's increasingly erratic behavior, and of the unsettling power of human art and music. One of the most vocal dissenters was Lieutenant Zara. A young but highly respected officer in the fleet's strategic planning division. Zara had always been a staunch supporter of the Zergonian Empire, believing in its mission to bring order and progress to the galaxy. But the evidence surrounding Earth was shaking her convictions. She approached Commander Vrook in his private chambers, her face etched with concern. "Commander," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I must speak with you about the situation on Earth." Vrook, weary and burdened by the weight of his command, sighed. "What is it, Zara?" "I have little patience for idle complaints." "It's not a complaint, Commander," Zara insisted. "It's a matter of conscience. I believe that conquering Earth would be a grave mistake." Vrook raised an eyebrow. "And why is that, Lieutenant? Are you suddenly swayed by the sentimental drivel of a primitive species?" "No, Commander," Zara replied. It's not sentimentality, it's logic. The AI's analysis, Dr. Lyra's theory, the story of the Greebly, all point to the same conclusion. Earth is a dangerous planet. Its culture is a mimetic hazard, capable of corrupting our minds and destroying our civilization. That is a rather dramatic assessment, Lieutenant, Vrook said, his voice cool. But I appreciate your concern, I assure you. I am taking all of these factors into consideration. But are you, Commander? Zara pressed. Or are you blinded by your ambition, by your desire for conquest? Are you willing to risk the safety of the entire Zergonian Empire for the sake of a single planet? Vrook's eyes narrowed. That is a serious accusation, Lieutenant. Are you questioning my command? I am questioning your judgment, Commander, Zara said, her voice unwavering. I believe that you are making a terrible mistake, and I am not alone. There are many others in the fleet who share my concerns. Vrook stood up, his towering figure casting a long shadow over Zara. Are you threatening me, Lieutenant? No, Commander, Zara said, taking a step back. I am warning you, if you proceed with this invasion, you will face a mutiny. Many of your crew will refuse to fight. They will not risk their lives, or the lives of their comrades, for a pointless and dangerous conquest. Vrook stared at Zara for a long moment, his expression unreadable. He knew that she was telling the truth. He could feel the growing dissent within the fleet, the unease and uncertainty that was spreading like a disease. He also knew that he had a choice to make. He could ignore the warnings, dismiss the doubts, and press forward with the invasion, or he could listen to his conscience, acknowledge the risks, and change course. The fate of the Zergonian Empire, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The seeds of mutiny had been sown, and the question was whether Vrook could still pull them before they bloomed into open rebellion. He had to act decisively, but with wisdom, to prevent the fleet from tearing itself apart. Vrook, shaken by Zara's warning and the growing unrest within his fleet, decided to focus on a more tangible aspect of the Earth threat. Their technology. He tasked the AI with a deeper analysis of human engineering, looking beyond the surface-level primitiveness to uncover any hidden capabilities. AI, Vrook commanded, reevaluate Earth's technological infrastructure. Focus not on its sophistication, but on its adaptability and resilience. I want to know how quickly they can innovate, how effectively they can respond to unforeseen challenges. The AI, its processing power now fully dedicated to the task, began to sift through the vast amount of data it had collected on Earth's technology. IT analyzed historical records, scientific publications, engineering schematics, and even amateur inventions, searching for patterns and anomalies. Commander, the AI reported after several hours, my initial assessment was indeed incomplete. While Earth's technology may appear primitive compared to our own, it possesses several unique characteristics that make it surprisingly effective. Elaborate, Vrook said, his attention focused intently on the holographic display. Earth's technology is designed for redundancy and decentralization, the AI explained. Their systems are not reliant on a single point of failure. If one component is destroyed, others can quickly take its place. This makes their infrastructure remarkably resistant to disruption. The AI displayed a simulation of Earth's power grid. At IT showed how the grid was composed of thousands of independent power plants, connected by a complex network of transmission lines. If one power plant was destroyed, the others could compensate, preventing a widespread blackout. Furthermore, the AI continued, Earth's technology is designed for rapid adaptation. They are constantly innovating, developing new solutions to emerging problems. Their scientific and engineering communities are highly collaborative, sharing information and resources across national boundaries. The AI displayed a timeline of Earth's technological advancements. It showed how humanity had made rapid progress in fields such as medicine, communications, and transportation, constantly adapting to new challenges and opportunities. Their reliance on open-source information and distributed development allows for incredibly fast innovation cycles, the AI added. While individual components may be inferior, their ability to rapidly iterate and improve upon existing designs is a significant advantage. Vrook frowned. Are you suggesting that their technology is evolving faster than our own? Not necessarily, the AI replied. But their rate of adaptation is significantly higher, They are capable of developing countermeasures to our technology much faster than we anticipated. The AI presented a hypothetical scenario: if the Zergonians were to deploy a specific type of energy weapon, how long would it take humanity to develop a defense against it? The AI's answer was alarming. Weeks, perhaps even days. Their so-called primitive technology is deceptive, Vrook realized. It is not a sign of weakness, but a reflection of their resourcefulness and adaptability. They are capable of turning their limitations into strengths. He recalled the story of the Greebly. They had dismissed the Xylosians' primitive technology as irrelevant, focusing instead on their own superior firepower, but they had failed to appreciate the Xylosians' ability to adapt and innovate. Vrook now understood that Earth posed a far greater technological threat than he had initially imagined. Their technology might not be as advanced as the Zergonians, but it was far more resilient and adaptable, and in a prolonged conflict, those qualities could prove to be decisive. The seemingly simple surface hit a complex and rapidly evolving technological landscape. As Vrook grappled with the implications of Earth's resilient technology, the AI presented another unsettling discovery. Buried deep within humanity's digital archives, it found evidence suggesting a deliberate strategy of deception. Commander, the AI reported, I have uncovered data suggesting that humanity has intentionally projected an image of weakness and vulnerability to the galaxy. Explain, Vrook demanded, his four eyes narrowing. They have deliberately suppressed their technological advancements, concealed their true military capabilities, and promoted a narrative of internal division and self-destruction, the AI said. They have created a bait-and-switch strategy designed to lure in potential invaders. The AI displayed a series of intercepted communications, leaked documents, and declassified reports. These materials revealed a coordinated effort by various human governments and organizations to portray Earth as a defenseless target. They have cultivated this image for centuries, the AI continued. They have used their art, their literature, their media to reinforce the idea that they are a weak, divided, and self-destructive species. But why? Vrook asked, his mind racing. What is the purpose of this elaborate deception? The purpose is to lure in potential invaders, the AI replied. To entice them to attack, believing that Earth is an easy target, and then, when the invaders are at their weakest, to exploit their vulnerabilities and turn them against each other. The AI displayed a simulation of a hypothetical invasion scenario. It showed how humanity could use its knowledge of the invaders' weaknesses, its understanding of their culture, and its ability to manipulate their emotions to sow discord and chaos within their ranks. They are masters of psychological warfare, the AI said. They can exploit our fears, our desires, our prejudices. They can turn us against ourselves, making us destroy each other from within. Vrook felt a chill run down his spine. The AI's analysis was terrifying. Humanity was not just a defenseless target. They were a cunning and manipulative species capable of playing a long game, of using deception and psychological warfare to achieve their goals. They have studied us, Vrook realized. They have analyzed our weaknesses, our vulnerabilities. They know how to exploit our fears and desires. They are waiting for us to make a mistake, to reveal our true intentions. He thought back to Grok's reports from the surface, the humans' indifference, their lack of fear, their willingness to allow the Zergonians to exploit their resources. It all made sense now. They were not apathetic. They were playing a role, lulling the Zergonians into a false sense of security. This is a trap, Vrook said, his voice barely above a whisper. They are waiting for us to fall into their trap. They want us to attack so they can destroy us. He realized that the Zergonian fleet was in grave danger. They were not just facing a primitive species with limited technology. They were facing a cunning and manipulative enemy capable of using deception and psychological warfare to turn their own strengths against them. The image of weakness was a carefully constructed facade, hiding a deadly trap. The fact that no one had attacked Earth was not an oversight, but a testament to the effectiveness of their strategy. The revelation of humanity's bait-and-switch strategy forced Vrook to reevaluate everything he thought he knew about Earth. He had initially seen them as a weak and divided species, ripe for conquest, but now he realized that their weakness was a carefully constructed illusion designed to conceal their true strength. He turned to the AI once more, seeking a deeper understanding of what made humanity so dangerous. AI, he said, analyze humanity's core values and motivations. What is it that drives them? What makes them so unpredictable? The AI delved deeper into the human psyche, analyzing their history, their philosophy, their art, and their literature. It searched for the underlying principles that shaped their behavior and motivated their actions. Commander, the AI reported, humanity possesses a unique combination of traits that make them a formidable opponent. Explain, Vrook said, his voice filled with anticipation. Despite their flaws and imperfections, humanity possesses a remarkable capacity for innovation, the AI said. They are constantly seeking new ways to improve their lives, to solve their problems, to push the boundaries of knowledge and understanding. The AI displayed a montage of human achievements, scientific breakthroughs, technological innovations, artistic creations. It showed how humanity had overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles through ingenuity and determination. They are also capable of great empathy, the AI continued. They can understand and share the feelings of others, even those who are different from them. This allows them to form strong bonds of cooperation and mutual support. The AI displayed images of human acts of kindness, compassion, and self-sacrifice. It showed how humans had risked their lives to help others, even strangers, in times of crisis. And finally, the AI said, humanity possesses a profound sense of self-sacrifice. They are willing to give up their own lives, their own comfort, for the sake of a greater cause. The AI displayed images of human soldiers fighting for their freedom, of human activists protesting against injustice, of human martyrs sacrificing themselves for their beliefs. These qualities, combined with their cunning and manipulative nature, make humanity a dangerous and unpredictable enemy, the AI concluded. They are capable of great good, but also great evil. They are driven by a complex and often contradictory set of values, and they are willing to do whatever it takes to survive. Vrook fell silent, contemplating the AI's analysis. He realized that humanity's true strength lay not in their technology or their military power, but in their potential. They were a species capable of great innovation, empathy, and self-sacrifice, and that made them a force to be reckoned with. He now understood why no one had ever successfully conquered Earth. It wasn't just their technology or their psychological warfare tactics. It was their inherent potential, their capacity for growth and change that made them such a difficult target. Any invader would not just be fighting a planet, but the very idea of humanity, an idea capable of adapting and overcoming any challenge. The very things that seemed like weaknesses were, in reality, their greatest strengths. They were a species that could not be easily broken, a species that would always find a way to survive, and that made them the ultimate deterrent. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on Vrook's shoulders. He had come to Earth expecting an easy victory, a quick conquest. Instead, he had found a planet teeming with hidden dangers, a species capable of turning its weaknesses into strengths. The cost of conquering Earth, he now realized, would be far greater than any potential benefit. It was time to make a decision. He summoned his senior staff once more, the holographic conference room flickering to life with their expectant faces. He could sense the tension in the air, the anticipation of his decision. My fellow Zergonians, Vrook began, his voice grave, I have carefully considered all of the evidence, all of the risks and benefits, and I have come to a conclusion. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. We will withdraw from Earth. A collective gasp swept through the conference room. Some officers looked relieved, others stunned, and a few openly expressed their disappointment. Commander, one of the officers protested, are you sure about this? We have come so far. We have invested so much time and resources. Are we simply going to abandon our mission? We are not abandoning our mission, Vrook replied, his voice firm. We are reevaluating our strategy. We came to Earth seeking resources and expansion. But we have discovered that Earth is not the easy target we thought it was. It is a dangerous and unpredictable planet, capable of inflicting significant damage on our civilization. He recounted the AI's findings, Dr. Lyra's theory of the mimetic hazard, the story of the Greebly, and the evidence of humanity's bait-and-switch strategy. He emphasized the resilience of their technology, their capacity for innovation, and their willingness to sacrifice everything for their freedom. Conquering Earth would not be a simple military operation, Vrook said. It would be a protracted and costly war, a war that could potentially destabilize our entire empire. And even if we were to succeed, we would be forever changed by the experience. We would be infected by their memes, corrupted by their culture, and weakened by their constant resistance. He looked at each of his officers in turn, his 4 eyes conveying the gravity of the situation. I am not willing to risk the safety of our civilization for the sake of a single planet. I am not willing to sacrifice our values, our principles, for the sake of conquest. I believe that the wisest course of action is to withdraw from Earth, to cut our losses, and to learn from our mistakes. He knew that his decision would be unpopular with some, that he would be accused of cowardice and weakness. But he was convinced that it was the right thing to do, the only thing to do. I understand that some of you may disagree with my decision, Vrook said. "But I trust that you will respect my authority and carry out my orders. We will begin the withdrawal process immediately. All scouting parties will be recalled, all mining operations will be shut down, and all ships will prepare for departure." He looked at Grok's image, still patched through from the surface. "Grok, I want you and your team back on the indomitable fury within the hour. Leave nothing behind. Erase all traces of our presence." Grok, his face a mask of confusion and disappointment, nodded slowly. "As you command, Commander." Vrook deactivated the holographic conference room, his heart heavy with the weight of his decision. That he knew that he was making a gamble, that he was potentially giving up a valuable opportunity. But he also knew that he was averting a far greater disaster, that he was choosing caution over ambition, wisdom over greed. And in the long run, he believed that it was the only way to ensure the survival of the Zergonian Empire. The cost was too high, the risk too great. Earth was simply not worth it. The Zergonian fleet began its long journey back to the galactic core. Commander Vrook felt a strange mixture of relief and apprehension. He had averted a potential disaster, but he also knew that he was leaving behind a dangerous and unpredictable force. He couldn't shake the feeling that humanity, with its unique blend of potential and self-destruction, posed a threat not just to itself, but to the entire galaxy. Before initiating the final jump to hyperspace, Vrook made a final, perhaps irrational, decision. He ordered the AI to compose a message to humanity, a cryptic warning about the dangers they pose to themselves and to others. "Compose a message," Vrook instructed the AI. "A message that will convey the essence of what we have learned about humanity. A message that will serve as both a warning and a plea." The AI, after analyzing all of the data it had collected on humanity, formulated a brief but profound statement. "Transmit the following message to Earth," Vrook ordered. "Encode it in a variety of formats: radio waves, light pulses, gravitational distortions. Ensure that it cannot be easily ignored." The message was transmitted, a faint signal propagating across the vast gulf of space, carrying a warning that humanity might never fully understand. The message read, "Beware your own potential. You are a seed of both creation and destruction. Your capacity for empathy is matched only by your capacity for self-annihilation. The galaxy has left you untouched, not out of ignorance, but out of caution. Your true enemy is not without, but within. Control yourselves, or be controlled." With the transmission complete, Vrook turned his attention to the task of leading his fleet back to Zorgan space. He knew that he would face criticism and scrutiny for his decision to withdraw from Earth. But he was prepared to defend his actions, to explain why he had chosen caution over conquest as the indomitable fury entered hyperspace. Earth receded into the distance, a pale blue marble fading into the darkness. Vrook couldn't help but wonder what the future held for humanity. Would they heed the warning? Would they learn to control their destructive impulses and harness their potential for good? Or would they continue on their path of self-destruction, ultimately destroying themselves and perhaps even threatening the stability of the galaxy? He knew that he would never know the answer, but he hoped, for the sake of all sentient life, that humanity would find a way to navigate the treacherous waters of its own nature. Back on Earth, the cryptic message was detected by various scientific organizations and government agencies. It was analyzed, debated, and ultimately dismissed as either a hoax or a meaningless anomaly. Few understood the true significance of the warning, the profound truth that lay hidden within its simple words. And so, humanity continued on its path, oblivious to the dangers that lurked both within and without. The Zorgonian fleet was gone, but the question of why no one attacked defenseless Earth remained, a silent testament to the unique and terrifying potential of humankind. The key, it seemed, was not their lack of defenses, but the subtle, almost invisible shield woven from their complex nature, a shield that even the most powerful empires hesitated to breach. The planet was left alone not because it was weak, but because it was too dangerous.